Right now, I want to bring up to this platform my homegirl, Carrie. Carrie, where you at? Hello.
Hello. Hello. Thank you, DJ Ome. You're amazing. Awesome. How's everyone feeling? So hopefully we're energized. So we are going to conclude today with a wonderful fireside chat with Michael C. Bush and Michelle Matos. So Michael is a dear friend of mine, mentor figure. He's my former entrepreneurship professor at Mills College. And he was also my first boss out of my MBA program. So we are going to, with an ed tech company that he founded to help small businesses scale. And my husband now calls him boss. So it's definitely a family affair. Moving on to his professional credentials. Michael C. Bush is a global chief executive with over 25 years of experience leading small and mid-sized organizations through transformational growth. Driven by a love of business and an unwavering commitment to fair and equitable treatment, in 2015, Michael acquired ownership and currently serves as global CEO of Great Place to Work, headquartered in Oakland, California, with operations in more than 60 countries worldwide. Great Place to Work is a global people analytics and consulting firm that helps companies of all sizes produce better business results by focusing on the work experience of every employee. Michelle Matos will be facilitating this conversation. Michelle is also a longtime friend and fellow Mills alumni. Michelle spent over 10 years in the nonprofit sector and private sector, focusing on community empowerment, small business development and coaching, before getting her MBA here at Mills College. Michelle was accepted into a rotational leadership program for AT&T, and they accept approximately 35 people a year nationwide. So this gives you an idea about Michelle. She's a boss. Michelle was with AT&T for 10 years through 3 rotations spanning from leading teams in field operations to individual contributor, roles in product development and marketing sales funnel. Michelle just recently launched an exciting new business, and they are the founder and CEO of the Matos Method. The Matos Method provides coaching services for people of color who want to make meaningful life changes and seek a dedicated space to bring it to fruition. They collaborate to identify clear goals and achievable outcomes. So with that, I'm going to welcome Michael and Michelle to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to this conversation.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Michelle. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while, man. I was still dancing. That music was so good. Got me energized. Not only the music, but having this opportunity with you. I'm extremely excited and honored to host Fireside Chat with you and be in dialogue. I, too, am a Michael Bush entrepreneurship graduate, one of the best classes, hands down, and part of the boss crew with Carrie and Nina and others. So really excited. Michael, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So Carrie already, introduced you in the best way possible, right? A leader known for leading organizations through growth, transforming them in the process. You're passionate about fair and equitable treatment, right? You bought Great Place to Work about 5 years ago. I'd love if you could share with us why you bought it and why did you add the "for all."
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, and great to see you. And the tables have turned. I used to be in the front of the classroom, and you were sitting out there, and look at us now. I didn't look back to see what hope I gave you a good grade, so you could.
You did.
All right, good. Well, I'm sure you got it because you earned it. But certainly thrilled to be here with you today. And just like many things in life, when you look back and you think about why you did something, it's different than how you feel about it in that moment, perhaps. Because so much about life, you think you know what you're doing, but you learn later you really don't know what you're doing, which is really exciting, and awesome. But I was actually hired by the founder of Great Place to Work to sell it, and ended up buying it. So it was a strange kind of a situation. And the thing that attracted me to it was this idea of having all these analytics about all these great companies, and yet seeing in the analytics that a great place to work for some was very different than a great place to work for all. And so I saw companies that were great places to work for some, but I knew people who worked there and they were like, this place sucks, you know? And so having that real life experience of knowing how that can be true really attracted me to, wow, you know, maybe in terms of this diversity, inclusion, belonging game, there's a way to use these analytics to gain some leverage and to stimulate change. You know, perhaps there's a way of doing that. So I was, you know, intrigued by that, hoping to do that. Instantly added the for all because of what I just mentioned, the data showing that you could have a great place to work for some, meaning the majority, and that could silence the voices of the underrepresented or the minorities. And so saw that, got inspired about it, got to work on it, and have, you know, tried to do what we can to try and bring about equality and equity through the analytics.
Yeah, amazing. And Michael, I know Great Place to Work for All. You know, I know you offer many services. One of the things that you offer that's especially meaningful and important is the certification program, right? Which is a pretty rigorous process, anywhere from small to big corporates, right? Trying to identify how it is the best place to work for women, for, you know, racially diverse, you name it, right? And that getting that stamp means a lot. And more people look for that, right? As they consider opportunities for themselves. I want to make a connection to our keynote speaker, Heather McGee, had an amazing keynote. She's the author of Some of Us, and she really focused on the belief, which is not only a belief, it's now really how a lot of our systems work across the government, education, business, housing, you name it, is that progress for one compromises progress for all, right? And then she talked about how some solutions are multiracial organizing or multiracial coalition building, right? I think what Great Place for All does is also a solution around moving away from this, you know, zero-sum mentality, in particular in business. I'm wondering if you could talk about other ways that business can be a force for good, right? In this crazy intersectional racist world, and what must change to make this possible?
Yeah, I too, you know, love this idea of how you can create, you know, kind of a rising tide lifting all boats, but everybody's got to have a boat, you know. So you know, that's where kind of the equity and fairness kicks in. The other one is, you know, I also love Heather's work around, you know, the business imperative. And let's look at the facts of what happens when underrepresented groups get an opportunity for equity and fairness. And now I do feel like diversity and inclusion and equity and belonging, there will be losers. I definitely feel that way. And I want to talk about that because I don't see how it happens any other way. So I just want to talk about that in a direct way. But if you look at, you know, I think the United States is a perfect example of, if you look at the time period from 1960 to 2010, what you find is that was phenomenal growth period for the United States. The GDP went from 500 billion to 14.4 trillion in 2010 in this 50-year span. And if you analyze, one of the things that happened is during that growth, the job creation was so high and the need to fill jobs with talent was so high, something that people didn't want to happen had to happen, which is women entering the workforce. So it was clear that, Sandra Day O'Connor had rung the bell that, look, there's discrimination here, but it had to happen. Now, of course, they entered the workforce and got paid 63 cents on the dollar, but they entered the workforce. And what was also powerfully true is in 1960, if you take physicians, managers, and lawyers, 94% of them were white men. Just imagine that. Managers, all physicians, all lawyers in the US, white males. Okay. Now, what happened over time is that changed. Women started getting some of those positions while being paid a lot less. And you know that if a woman became a physician or a lawyer, she had to be a badass or it wouldn't have happened. So just to navigate through against all this discrimination, well, it did happen. Same thing started happening for people of color, making 40 cents on the dollar. But these two things happened. Now, what was the result of top talent breaking through and moving into roles where they were currently denied? The result was 500 billion to 14.4 trillion, the greatest growth era of the US. And this is currently happening around the world. This, to me, is the most powerful argument for diversity, inclusion, which is the war for top talent and letting people through who have the best talent. It's a magnificent growth. Everybody prospered. If you were a white male, you made 14 times more money at the end of this time period than you did at the prior natural growth, based on the introduction of women and people of color entering the workforce. So the tide really went up. Now, who lost? Incompetent men, mainly incompetent white men. They did lose. So it isn't everybody. If you're incompetent, you should be afraid. You should be worried, but you should be worried. It has nothing to do with equity and inclusion or diversity. That's just like, you're not competent. And if you're incompetent, I'm not trying to hate on you. I'm saying do something where you can be competent. Okay. Don't be a physician and not be competent. Do something else. There's probably something else for you to do. But this is it. Diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging means the top talent wins. So let the top talent through and stop holding down the top talent to keep people who aren't really qualified and capable. And when you do that, it's good for everyone. It's good for everybody, except incompetent people who need to find something else to do.
I love it. I love it. Being a part of and navigating a Fortune 9 company, I can attest to that experience of seeing amazingly talented, women of color, people of color, who are very qualified and probably in that top tier, having to compete with what you've discussed as mediocre or incompetent. So yeah. I can absolutely, attest to that reality and frustration and the need to remove some of those barriers to let, as you said, people who can do it really well do it. No, I love that. Thank you, Michael. I want to see if there are, because I don't just want to ask a bunch of questions. I want to see if there's any questions from the audience. Carrie or team, Patty, I don't really know if I can see the questions on StreamYard or if you'll pull them up or if you want me to toggle, but I'm going to check, Michael, just to see if there's anything.
Sure.
Any Q&A for the event. Let's see. If not, we'll keep going. All right, I don't see any. So I'm going to go ahead and keep plugging away here. So Michael, today, one of the hot topics was equal access across technology, social, organizations, the economy, in particular, capital. What changes do you think are needed here to create a more inclusive, just environment?
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is an area where there are some positive things beginning to happen. I think the positive things that are beginning to happen is people in the financial from the financial sector are admitting that there's a problem. So there's the first step, and there are funds now being set up, targeted towards women who are entrepreneurs, underrepresented people who are entrepreneurs. I haven't seen a whole lot of movement yet, but I'm encouraged that these things exist today that didn't exist 10 years ago. So, certainly feel good about the trend. But the thing that, is going to continue to cause us some concern is that when people decide to, hey, I'm going to make this investment, they're using a bunch of conscious things and a bunch of unconscious things. And they're using a bunch of objective things and a bunch of subjective things. And this is where we have the problem. And it doesn't matter what venture capital firm you talk to, what private equity firm you talk to, what bank you talk to. That I'm not sure if we can take this risk. The part of it that is subjective has to do with racism. And so it's present. So it's in every system where money's moving. This is present. Now, there are some systems where there's more of it than others, but it's present in every system. I've got personal experience with this issue in terms of people that I know who get capital like I've raised and have not had to make personal guarantees like I've had to provide based on something that I don't quite understand, but I do understand it. So this reality is still real and it's still true. So I'm a very hopeful, optimistic person, but I believe in dealing with reality. So until I believe there are more people who have the ability to see value where others can't, which means that the people who are investing and have the authority to invest and make investment committee decisions need to be from underrepresented groups because they see the world differently. One group, sees the world one way, another group sees it a different way. And by the way, this is a great money-making opportunity, back to the earlier point that I made, because of all the talent that doesn't get capital today, that other people can see that talent and will invest in that talent, not because it's doing the right thing, not because it's about equity, but simply because it's about great business, which is the winning idea. And so I'll feel really good when there are people from underrepresented groups in charge of the investment committee moving the money. It's one thing to be in charge of a fund or to be a partner in a fund. It's another thing to be on the investment committee. The money gets moved by the investment committee. So there are some cases where you look at a fund and you're like, oh, great, there's a woman. And then you go look at the investment committee and there's no women on the investment committee. That power source, is where things, have to get moved. So I'm, hopeful that will continue to have some progress there. We've had very little there so far. I'm still optimistic, but nobody can be claiming victory. And and then the final point on that is, as Ibn Kendi says, the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. So there has to be a very intense, pure, unabashed preference to put capital where it has not been going. So you don't have to be, like now, I know the city of Oakland right now, announced its form of universal basic income and said it was going to do it based on race. It was now there's a big uproar that's discriminatory.
Right.
What about poor white people? Well, I care about poor white people. I care about any poor person. But if you look at city of Oakland, who's making $35,000 a year and less? It's Black people. It's not white people. So you can make a general statement. If you look at the data, you see 75,000 for a white family, 35,000 for a Black family.
Right.
Well, back to the how to lift the whole economy in the city of Oakland, you go to the lowest point. Just like in a workforce, if you want to know how to lift the trust level, the work we do, you go to the group that's having the toughest time, which is Black women. And that's how you lift it for everyone, because the things you're going to do to improve things for the situation for the group of people that are having it the worst benefits everyone. When you do a door that opens automatically for someone who's differently abled, everybody's happy to walk through a door without having to open it. It makes things better for everybody. So you go to the area where there's a problem, you solve that problem, everybody benefits from that.
Yeah, I think that is a great way to put it, Michael. When you go and you solve together, right, with the people who are impacted, these problems, then it's better for everybody. So absolutely 100% agree. And I like what you said about the equal access to capital. And there's the people who manage the funds and then the investment committee, right? So like there's a table and then there's a table, right? Yeah. Or you're in the room, but are you at the table? Are you even at the room? Are you at the door, right? So it's all of these different levels of access or lack thereof every step of the way. And I heard some of that being discussed in some of the sessions earlier. We have a question coming in from our audience, or questions from the audience already. So one that came up is, what do orgs need to do so hiring managers accelerate equity and recognize the power of their financial choice between candidates?
Well, so what organizations need to do is, in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, where great companies will all say, in this area, we have a long way to go. That's the common chorus that they always say, because it's true. And so a great company will admit it. They have a long way to go. So there's nobody claiming victory. Everybody does have a long way to go. Well, if you have a long way to go and you interpret Ibram Kendi's statement the way I interpret it, which means that you've got a company and you take a look at it and you're like, wow, we look weird. We look weird. It's like a company that's doing all these things and you Google the team and you go, that looks weird. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So when you see a situation that looks weird, and then you're going to try and do something about that, like we're going to double the number of Asian American managers over the next 4 years, and statements like that. So you're going to grab these underrepresented groups and you're going to do something. Increase the number by 20% in these roles. Increase the pipeline by 30% for those. Double the number of Latinx managers by 2025. Those kinds of things. So you're making those statements. Well, here's what organizations haven't quite figured out. Those statements can be made, but what is it going to take to actually do it? This is some companies are figuring out, okay, because when you're going to move something like 20% to 30% or double the number of this group, over time, well, now you're hiring. And by the way, hiring is on right now. It's on right now. This economy is moving. In the US, it's definitely moving. It's a real thing. And you want to be a part of it somehow because it's happening. And if you're not moving, be concerned. You need to be moving. You need to grab somebody who's moving so you can be moving. And so now you're hiring. And you're in a company that wants to double the number of Black employees in a certain job classification in the next 3 years. And now you're hiring. And so you're going to hire 10 people. I'm going to hire 10 people who, are in this targeted group of this level of manager. Okay, so I'm going to hire 10 people. At the end of the 10 people, hey, guess what? I hired 3 Blacks. That's 30% Blacks. I've hired 30% Blacks, and there's only 13% Blacks in the whole population. I've hired 30%, 3 out of 10. You're not going to make it because the deficit's so large, you needed to hire 6 out of 10. That's the only way to affect your company's numbers. This is the thing. This is some people misinterpret Ibram's point. Because the deficit's so large, you got to overdo it. You got to overdo it. So this is what the orgs need to do. The answer to this question, that's what orgs need to do. You got to make it clear to your people hiring, hey, guess what? Because of where we are, because of all this, I mean, you can call it whatever you want. Past discrimination and unconscious and conscious bias, we got to change our company, which means right now, guess what? We got to get underrepresented people. We got to get underrepresented people. So that's it. So you got to clarify that for people. You got to let a manager know you're going to hire 70 people this year because it's on. Here's what needs to happen. You need, this number of women. You need this number, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, I don't know a CEO. I've never met a CEO who will say, oh, by the way, we got to hit these diversity goals so you can lower your talent expectations. You can drop the quality of talent. That has never been said by a CEO on earth. That's only been said by non-CEOs. There is no CEO who is going to meet some diversity goal by lowering the talent threshold. That's insane. You don't know anything about a CEO if you think that that's possible, because CEOs have to win. They're in the game to win. They're not bringing in somebody that, hey, nice to have you. I know you can't read or anything, but at least this and that. That's not what happens. It's totally different than that. So that just means, all right, you got to get your game on, because maybe you're not that great at attracting, the top talented women. You got to find them. When you find them, you're going to get rewarded. Maybe you don't know how to find, Latinx leaders like Michelle, and people to come in and get into the mix. So you got to turn your game up on how to find them. And when you find them, you're going to get rewarded. So you got to change what you're doing and how you're doing it, but you're just going to get rewarded. And you don't have to drop the talent level. You're about to increase it. So you use your same criteria on deciding whether somebody gets hired or not. It's where you're looking that has to change. Mm-hmm. And by the way, when you attract underrepresented people, they bring their LinkedIn network. Because lazy people hang out with lazy people, great people hang out with great people. So that's the thing. You get this top talent and you unleash them and you treat them great. They bring their LinkedIn profiles and cut your recruiting cost. So your costs go down because they'll start bringing people and be like, hey man, this place is real. This is a real place for us. This is a place where they want us to be great and they want us to be us. And we can come to work knowing there's a trial going on and it's killing us every single day to watch this trial going on every day. And you can talk about it here. You can talk about it here and still get about this work, but people expect you to be yourself while you're here. It takes care of itself. All of a sudden, these hard to find people aren't so hard to find because the people take care of that for you.
Yeah. Michael, I hope you're sharing this message with CEOs across the US and the world, because it's absolutely true. And you mentioned something that definitely hit home for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people in the audience, regardless of whether you're in a nonprofit, you're in a small business, in a big corporate, and government. I do think that there is this narrative around, again, progress for one, compromises others, right? I think the other narrative that you touched on indirectly is, wow, well, we're going to get all these diverse candidates in, but we're lowering our expectations, when actually the reverse. I can share my personal experience. You have to work twice as hard. That has been my experience. It's like, oh, you're underrepresented. Now you have to work twice as hard to prove that you deserve to be here, right? So I just think there's like a miss sometimes when there's that narrative around, oh, we're lowering the expectations. I'm like, no, I think the expectation is double, wrongfully. But, that's definitely, experience that I've had along the way. And I think probably a lot of others here too. So it always amazes me when that's the narrative, that expectations are lowered to diversify the pool. I want to see, oh, perfect. Another question. So how should BIPOC people navigate the working world when we feel like we don't belong in corporate spaces?
Yeah. And this is a big issue, most people have experienced something in their life where they felt like they didn't belong. Most people have had some experience in their life where they felt like they didn't belong. Where you walked in that room and everybody stopped talking, something like that. And it's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling because it makes you insecure. It makes you unwilling to say things. It makes you not want to take risks. It makes you feel emotionally and psychologically unsafe. So you can't be yourself. So how was everything? Great. What you think about that game? Good. You know, you don't know what to say about anything because you just don't feel like, you know, really people care about you as a person. And that's common for people part of underrepresented groups. And an underrepresented group could be a neuroscience difference. Okay, so it's any time that you're kind of not in the dominant type, you know, within a group of people, you can have this feeling. So now I believe Great Place to Work believes it's the organization's responsibility to make sure everybody feels like they belong. That's what you need to do, except incompetent people. Okay. And when I say incompetent people, let me be clear about something because I see something in the chat. I'm not saying somebody thinks you're incompetent. I'm saying you're incompetent. Okay. So big difference between that. You know, if you're not delivering, if you're not meeting the metrics and the requirements of the job, and you know, so then you got a problem. And now if you're being discriminated against, okay, that's not your fault. But I'm just saying we all have to be great at what we do. That we have to do. And if you're in an environment that won't allow you to be great, find another place. You know, try and move on and find another place while the economy's good. So, you know, what can we do when we're in a place where the manager doesn't seem to care about us? About the culture doesn't seem to care about us. Update your LinkedIn profile. Start looking for another place to work. Don't quit. I don't believe in quitting because I don't feel like I belong. Because all that happens then is there's no money coming your way. Keep the money coming your way. Money matters. I know there are people who are like, well, principles are more important than, you know what? I'm like, keep the money moving. Okay. And then find that next opportunity where you can go someplace where you can see the employees are saying, this is a great place to work. You know, this is a place that cares about me. And then, you know, if you're one of a few, you want to try and see if you can connect with some others that are part of the few. There are organizations now who have employee resource groups, employee belonging groups, where you can come together with people who have had some similar experiences to get the support that you need to number one, to retain each other, to stay, and then help each other in what they want to do, which people want to get promoted. They want to grow and learn things. If you don't have those numbers at your place to do that, then look to industry associations and other parts of the community, nonprofit partners, where you can start to work with other people who are like you. And you can start to talk to them about this common experience about how do we make it when we don't feel like we belong. And when people say that we're respected, but it doesn't look like we're respected because when we look up, we don't see many people that look like us. You know, so these are some of the realities. And so we have to keep going. We have to keep moving. We have to look for other places that might be better. We have to know the odds are against us. We have to know the playing field is not level and things are not fair and things are not equitable. I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't know. That's why people came to this remarkable session. We understand what's going on and are trying to figure out how to move and, you know, make the situation better for ourselves and for others. And I think it's important to understand money and how it works and understand capitalism and how it works, which it's pretty easy to understand how it doesn't work. So therefore, understanding how it works and try and be a part of a group that is latched onto that growth. And then you reach back and grab some people and everybody's moving together, you know, with this understanding. So, you know, for example, somebody who's having a tough time at work. I'm about to sound like an old person. When I'm talking to somebody who's having a tough time at work and they're like, hey, I just don't know if I can take it anymore. I'm like, you got to take it. You got to take it until you get that next job. Now, I know there's many different points of view. You can get on Twitter and tell me all about them. My advice to you is you don't quit your job. You quit when you have the next job. You got to keep the money moving. Okay, underrepresented people in particular, part of empowerment is economic. The money matters. So keep it moving. while you're working on your plan A or your plan C. You're going to start a company, build that company, do that business plan while you're getting paid. Work late at night on that business plan while you're getting that money wired every other week, and then launch. Don't quit and then, okay, now I'm gonna work on my business plan. That's my recommendation around how to make sure you stay economically where you need to be so that you have more options and choices than you would if you don't have that money.
Thank you, Michael. Lots of great nuggets there. And like you said, it's your point of view and experience, and there's different points of view and experiences, and corporate may not be for everyone, right? I in my own journey have navigated different career paths, starting with direct service work to nonprofit, kind of making that pivot to corporate kind of accidentally-ish, and have yielded great learnings from those different environments, and have definitely been the person that feels like, man, I don't really quite belong here, but I'm here. So how am I gonna make this work? And some of what you talked about really resonated, finding like-minded people who share similar intersectionalities as you do, or similar challenges, and kind of having that support and lifting each other up along the way. And that's something that I definitely have been a part of, not only in a corporate setting, but just in general in life, right? So having that network of people who are like-minded, who you can identify with, and help each other navigate a whole host of things, right? Outside of work, right? Carrie and Nina are definitely some of those people for me. So we've navigated MBA, we've navigated corporate, we've navigated a lot of stuff. So that really hit home. Carrie, Patty, any other questions from the audience? I definitely have one more for Michael. Okay, so from Olivia, what is a policy solution that you see has been underrated and deserves more attention from the activists and dreamers here?
I'm a person who left corporate America over 30 years ago. So I've been running my own thing, Michelle, as you know, because I realized I couldn't make it in that environment. And so I needed to leave it, to do my own thing. So that was my response to it. But I made sure I had something before I left it. Okay. And I think in terms of policy, I'm an entrepreneur. And so I'm my solution to the homeless problem is to employ lots of people. So I can't do everything, and I know what I can do and what I can't do. And so I try and attack homelessness by employing people and helping them stay employed and use their money wisely and smartly, and help entrepreneurs do the same thing. So policy, I'm not good at policy. I'm not a policy person. I'm not real good at it. I don't, kind of rely on government for much. I kind of find a different way to do it. So, I definitely am hopeful now, politically. But there's two policy things that I do have on my mind that may not be the answer. One of them is getting rid of student debt. That I'm all for. Anything this nation could do to cancel it all. You're probably going to cancel the nation with cancel debt that doesn't need to be canceled because the parents have the money. I don't care. Cancel it all, because most people, this is going to liberate them and change their lives forever. This is the single most important thing. When I talk to people that work at Great Place to Work, and we have a thing where we sit down with every employee, this is the thing. Student debt is crippling them, preventing them from getting on with their lives and doing the things that they need to do for themselves, for their kids, for their parents, and so on. This thing, only this nation has crippled its citizens with debt, with student debt, because the banks did it. Okay, you get to the root of this, we know where it came from. This game, this Ponzi scheme, okay, that's on the backs of working people right now. So I'm all for that. And the other thing that I'm interested in is anything around looking at the like racial constitution and behavior and decision making within financial institutions. Why do they look like they look? Anything around making them make that data public to try and enable some scrutiny there, I think will liberate capital. And I've seen some things recently, but that's about, I do anything to help get student debt removed. Write a check to anybody, anywhere to do that. On the rest, I'm kind of like James Brown said, I don't want anybody to give me nothing. Just open the door and I'll get it myself. And all I need is a crack.
I love it, Michael. Yep. And I think the analogy of student debt, is really the difference for so many people between surviving and actually living and thriving and being able to build some wealth beyond, right? When you've got that, it's really hard to do that. You focused a little bit on education, debt, racial inequities, and access to capital. One last question, kind of now stepping back with a global view, right? So you have businesses in over 50 countries. Thinking about some of these inequities, thinking about trends, what global trends do you see as relevant and that we should all be more aware of?
I'll tell you one that comes to mind. I was on a call with a lot of my global leaders last Thursday. And so we started the call, and I think it was last Thursday. And basically the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes of chit chat. So you've got people from all around the world, and then we've got some people from my US team. Everybody in the US was talking about whether they had their first shot or about to get their first shot or about to get their second shot. For everyone else on the screen, it was months away. And at first it started out really nice and upbeat. And then I realized all the US people were either about to get a shot, like me. At that time, I didn't have a shot, but I was about to get a shot, I thought. And I was lucky enough to get one on Saturday. But in the US, we're like talking that way. Germany, our leaders were like, they're talking about August. So this thing, now that's weird. When you got 60 countries, one country talking about to get a second shot, and everybody else is like, we have no idea. So that kind of inequity, yes, there's a story about what can happen with the virus mutation and variants with what I just said, but that's kind of the way the world is right now. The US is one thing, the rest of the world is another. The US has a stock market breaking records every day. That's not happening all around the world. We've seen this before. When the US, with all its problems, jumps out ahead of the rest of the world in terms of economic power, there are consequences. There are consequences. And so we've seen this again. I'm very concerned about it. Very concerned about this. So globally, we have, we talk about income inequality in the US, real issue, serious issue with devastating consequences. Same dislocation is happening globally with the US and the rest of the world. And same kind of pain can result from this bottom where there is no bottom. So I'm very concerned about that. That kind of inequality, and very concerned about all the things that are being talked about today and will be talked about tomorrow, and trying to do something with the thing that I know something about. I don't know a lot about a lot of things, but in terms of business, which is something I know something about because I've been into it since I was like 12. And I think it can be a force for good. I don't think that. I know that. I know it because of what I've been able to do and what others have been able to do. When you know that if you're somebody, if you're really trying to do something and it's just the money, anybody can do that. That's no big deal. That's no cause for celebration. So what? If you want to really do something, it's how much can you affect? Can you affect families? Can you affect the hard to find? Look at Google, great place to work. We got lots of hard to find people. Okay, how does that happen? And what can you do for their families? What can you do for their communities? And when you do it, here's the thing. Great Place to Work looked one way when I bought it. It looks different today. Our values increased by a factor of 10. We're 10 times more valuable based on other people. Now, why is that? I think it's the people we have. Because, yeah, I got diversity, and you can look in and see it, but that's not really what I have. What I have is top talent. I got A-level talent all through the business. Now, yeah, it looks different than most companies, but these people are crushing it. And they bring more people like them who are crushing it. So if you want to make a ton of money, you need to get on board with this diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging thing. This is the way to do it. And then you have people who, our people, all they talk about is what's going on in the community and what they can do and what we can do. So they're naturally, these aren't people who are, I'm trying to help with the homeless. I'm trying to help with those that are differently abled. I'm trying to help with the Hispanic community in San Francisco. We're doing a thing there along with Salesforce. They're doing those things and crushing it at work too. They aren't totally just they're doing both. They're crushing it at work and doing this too, because we're an and group of people. It's not this or this. Now, we happen to believe, though, that business is a force for good. And business has a serious responsibility here. And if you care about your people, you got to care about the community that they live in. You got to care about how they're getting educated. You got to care about, and you got to know if you have a workforce, there are people in it who are being domestically abused. I don't care what company you have. If you think that's not happening, you are totally blowing it. So you better, what are you doing for those people? Are your ears open for those people? Are you giving those people time off? Are you giving those people money with no questions asked to help them get from point A to point B? So you just have to be aware and awoke. You know, you could be awoke and missing everything. Okay, you got to be aware and awoke. And when you see and pick all this up, what are you doing about it? Well, if you're any kind of business person, you better be doing something about it. And because when you do, not only do you feel great and realize what your purpose is on this earth, you thought it was one thing, you realize it's a whole nother thing, and you get a group of people who feel the same way, that they are just going to crush it in the community, in their families, the environment. They care about the environment. You can't care about people and not care about the environment. How do you get to do that? You don't get to do that. It means you don't care about people. So this story gets filled in, and you become purpose driven, and that's what business can do. That's what business has to be able to do, and business can't do it alone. Everything, you got to have nonprofit partners. You got to have committed people in the community. You got to put your money where your mouth is, and make these investments. And if you get, like I have, all I have to do is follow my people. That's all I have to do is follow my people. They know what needs to be done in their community. So you just follow them and get behind them, and don't analyze stuff. Don't overanalyze stuff. We got somebody, they need some money. Here's $3,500. You don't overanalyze it. You just trust that person, because either you trust your employees or you don't. And if you do it, the results are wicked. They are just wicked. Our business is crushing it because of what I'm talking about. Not because I'm a great business person. I'm a purpose-driven business person, but it's the people. You collect other people just like this, and they solve the complex problems every single day. Every single day. And they're always in action. Nobody's sitting around moaning about a thing. Everybody's feet are moving. Their feet are moving. We were delivering supplies, goods, toys with double masks on. That's what our people did. Door to door when you weren't supposed to be doing it. You know, because they're so committed and passionate. You know, they're frankly unstoppable. So I'm a capitalist, totally believe in it, and know it can be a force for good. I'm not trying to, I'm trying to get other people to do it too. But the way for me to get other people to do it is, number one, am I doing it? You know, it's starting right there. And then we got so many great people like you, you know, like Carrie. I could just go on and on and on. You know, people who are totally committed to themselves, their families, taking care of their families, their communities, and those who don't have as much, and connecting people to solve these common problems. They're not just doing one thing. They feel like this is the whole thing that we have to be doing, you know, all at the same time with no excuses. No excuses, just getting about it, you know, taking action and you know, making sure that we're making things better.
Thank you, Michael. And, you know, woke is one thing, aware is another. And, you know, creating environments and fostering environments where people feel like they can bring all of who they are to work, right? It sounds like you have amazing talent and they feel like they can bring all of them to work, which then allows them to share what their passions are, what they're interested in, what they're worried about, and that the company and peers and you as a leader can support, right? And then the ripple effect is double, triple fold, where from here, it becomes an ecosystem out, right? And so when one thing is off balance, it affects everything else. So not just awoke, but aware. I love it. Thank you so much, Michael. I think it is time for us to wrap up. There's some networking going on. Carrie, I think I'm going to turn it over to you, but Michael, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for all your wisdom and, you know, thought leadership around the topics that we talked about today, and just love what you're doing with Great Place to Work for All.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Yep.
Bye. Thank you, Michelle and Michael. That was amazing. Such an enriching and lively discussion. I can always count on Michael to drop gold nuggets, such as students. You heard it. The economy is moving. Get out there and move. Companies, get on board with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Policy folks, cancel student debt. So many great things said today. And Michelle, you held space so beautifully. So thank you for that. We have one final speaker who's going to speak briefly before we break into our networking mixer and connect with one another and hear from DJ Ome until 5:30. But our final speaker I'd like to bring forward is the president of Mills College, Dr. Beth Hillman. She's going to say a few words about the history of Mills College. So Dr. Hillman, if you can just join the stage. Thank you for coming.
Carrie, thanks so much. I think you've heard from the inspiring Michael Bush just now. Michelle, it was great to hear your insights too as I joined that last session. Carrie, I just want to express a lot of gratitude. You know, the history of Mills is a history of innovators, a history of people making a difference, and that's exactly what you all have made possible today. You and your team, Carrie, and I just want to shout out who Carrie is for everybody out there who doesn't already know that. Mills College alumna, professor of practice on the Mills faculty, and director of the Center for Transformative Action, which has already done so much to bring folks together even before it stepped up in this pandemic and brought this kind of event to so many of you out there. The vision, the tenacity, and the unbelievable energy that the Center for Transformative Action has brought to our community makes a huge difference here at Mills College and really all around the community. I'm aware of that bar across the bottom of the screen that says you've been patiently waiting to connect to folks, so I'm not going to stand in the way. I'm just going to tell you a quick story about this morning at Mills College. So yesterday, I got a message from the president of a foundation that one of Mills undergraduates had won a national fellowship. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because we just told that student this morning, and she hasn't had a chance to share it with her family and community yet. And that foundation won't make public their awards until next week. But I can tell you that's a student who found tremendous success at Mills College because of the kind of innovation and the people that Michael was just talking about, the people who make a difference, and you just have to give them the chance to do it. She was able to win a fellowship in the most competitive group ever. They had more applicants than ever before for this world-renowned scholarship opportunity. So I just want to say, as Mills embraces anti-racism, as Mills recognizes the order of the day, asks for more from all of us, as we try to be that force for good that Michael talked about, and as we want to be part of the change that you all are making for the future, I want to thank you for creating this opportunity, Carrie, you and your team, for everybody to connect.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Hillman. We really appreciate hearing from you very briefly so we can get the party started. And we appreciate you leading us during these uncertain times that the college is having as well. So I want to acknowledge that. So you have survived day one. Now it's time to network and dance. So make sure you join us tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. We are going to be kicking off with DJ Ome. They're going to get to do a set that's slightly longer in the morning to get us really revved up. So please join us. We will have 3 tracks tomorrow. So the day is going to be focused on our collective power and the models and alternatives surrounding that. So we're going to be hearing about restorative justice, housing issues, and the team just, thank you for helping me out there, team. We now can see the schedule for tomorrow starting off at 11:30, heading into our closing chat with Karina Gould, Noni Session, and Bambi Salcedo. So please come with us. And right now, if you haven't already, it's time to meet someone new. So we have a networking tab on the side, the left-hand nav bar, and we want you to click that networking tab, and we will match you up with someone randomly. You'll meet someone new. This is so important and so powerful to connect right now, since we haven't been meeting many people this year. So please do that. DJ Ome is also going to be on the main stage, so you can go between networking and the main stage and listening to tunes from DJ Ome. So we're so happy to have spent the day with you today, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Don't forget to donate as well if you feel like what you heard today was transformative and useful to you. We love individual donations, and information there should be on our reception page, and we'll also put the link to the giving form in the chat where DJ Ome is at. So thanks everyone, have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you on the network.
Yes. Thank you, Carrie. Everybody, thank you so much for being with us.